Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would take a trip down memory lane and talk a little bit about why I chose to go into the area of science that I have chosen. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm a eco-plant physiologist. I study climate change and the impact that climate change is going to have on our forest biome and also how plant microbe interactions might be altered under elevated carbon and elevated temperature, and what that means for forest health in the future. So, how did I get there? Like, what got me interested in all of this? Well, for starters, when I was a young boy, I've always been fascinated by the natural world. I remember when I was, about 6 or 7, I was obsessed with animals. And then before that, I mean, I don't remember this, but I'm very fortunate that my parents and grandparents had a video camera, and so I get to see films of me when I was much younger. And very clear, I was very obsessed with dinosaurs before then. Of course, little boys and dinosaurs. Of course, even little girls. My daughter is fascinated by Jurassic Park, and it thrills me to bits to see it. But I was fascinated by dinosaurs. And then that moved into animals. And then I remember very strong memories of my grandfather. He used to take me for walks to school, and we would listen to all the different sounds of nature. You hear a bird, and you go and you say, "Oh, what bird was that? Oh, that's a cardinal. Can we find the cardinal in the tree?" That kind of thing. Collecting leaves, collecting flowers, naming them, getting to know the habitats and things. So that really kick-started my interest in the natural world. Now, as a young kid, I was terrible at school. I had no interest. I preferred recess. I didn't care to learn that much, really. But I was a C, B student. And it wasn't really until about grade 6 where things started to change a bit for me. Um, I began to realize that I really liked this subject that we were being taught called science. And the main reason was because it had answered questions that I've always had. For example, when I was a little boy, I always wondered why, when it was cold outside, when I would blow the air from my mouth, that it would form a little cloud and it would condense. I didn't know why. I used to pretend I was a dragon, right? Running around going, blowing, um, smoke everywhere. And I thought it was cool. But then to learn why that happens, how it happens, was fascinating to me, and it provided an answer to a question that I've always had. Things like gravity. We learned about gravity, why things fall down. Like, what is gravity? How does it function? Learning about the stars in the heavens always fascinated me. And it was all in this subject called science. And so I really took a liking to it. Then in grade 7, I was very lucky to have a teacher named Mrs. Bilby, who I was very close to. And she was a chemist by training. And she recognized my interest in science and started sort of honing me to thinking like a scientist and saying, okay, you don't like English or you don't like doing social studies or something. Well, how about I spin it and make it more scientific for you? And then all of a sudden, I would catch it very quickly and be very interested in it. She kind of got that ball rolling bigger and bigger. And then I began to get very, very curious. And it wasn't enough, the things we were learning in class. So I'd spend my recesses, instead of going outside like I used to playing, I would be in the library reading books on science just to get more and more information on how things worked. And it was fascinating to me to know all this information. And then that sort of just kept snowballing. Same thing in grade 8. I became very passionate about science then. And then in high school, I very much became very focused on science. Now, of course, in grade 11, uh, in high school, at least here in Ontario, that's where you begin this subject of science gets broken up into the different streams of science. So you have physics, looking at energy and matter. Then you've got um, chemistry, so looking at the interactions of matter and how you get various compounds that are around us. Then there was biology, and there also I was lucky that we also had an Earth and space course where you looked at astronomy and geology. Now we also, of course, had things like geography, psychology, um, and in mathematics. I was very, very interested in psychology as well, and neuroscience. I was very fascinated by that. Um, Same thing with geography and math. I was very good at math, so I've always enjoyed mathematics. However, I began to really notice I liked this subject of chemistry, and I thought, yeah, yeah, I love this chemistry thing. And in grade 11, it was my highest mark. I think it was like a 97, 98, something like that. It's been a long time since then. But I was so fascinated by it. Making reactions, watching explosions, learning how the chemistry of life occurs, why it occurs. Why, for example, water on this planet is is liquid and not a gas like it should be. Like, what about water makes it so special? And all these things that were fascinating to me about chemistry. And I loved it, and I got very excited. And it was at that point that I wanted to be an analytical chemist. I said, I'm going to be a chemist. I'm going to analyze compounds. I know what I'm going to do. And I thought I was going to be a chemist. And grade 12, same thing. I was 100% chemist. Then I went to university, and I applied to be in the chemistry department. So I started out as a chemist. And I very quickly realized that from talking to some upper year students, that after first year chemistry, where you do a lot of laboratory based work, titrations, different distillations, and so on, after first year, you kind of taper off on that, and it becomes much more using machines that do a lot of the synthesis for you, and you just get printouts and readouts. I didn't like that. I like being in the lab. I always envisioned being in the lab. And I found out that it was more of a desk job. I thought, oh no, I don't want that. So it wasn't what I thought. Now, of course, there's a lot of areas of chemistry where you still do a lot of that. But, it could have even been bad advice from the students. I don't know. I know a lot of chemists now, and to be honest, depending on what area of chemistry you go to, yes, there can be more printouts versus lab work. So, but at the time when you're told that, you know, you panic and go, oh my goodness, it's not what I want to do. Ah, I gotta switch. So I started thinking, what can I switch into? And I was also taking physics, so I took chemistry and physics in first year. Physics, I liked it. I did pretty well at it. I got a minor in physics in the end, but I did not. It seemed to me that a lot of the stuff was more simulations. Like even in our labs that we were doing, you would watch a pendulum swing back and forth, but you would use equipment to just measure the swing and convert it into a model on the computer. Same thing with optics and light; it was all using computer simulations, and I didn't like that. And even as I did my minor, a lot of the things we were doing was pretty much more simulation based, and I didn't like that. Same thing with mathematics. I love math. Don't get me wrong. I love physics, but again, it was a lot. It wasn't lab stuff, and I always envisioned doing things and making explosions, and that's why I thought chemistry was the thing. But then I also took biology, and then I realized that in biology there was these labs that continued right through all the way up into your last year of university, where you were handling specimens, you were analyzing with microscopes. And the cool part was you got to do chemistry too. So you got to take all these uh, biochemical molecules and analyze them with different things and different techniques like HPLC-MS. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm combining chemistry, which I've always wanted, with biology. And I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe this exists. And so I jumped on that in second year, but every year in university, every year you reapply for different programs so you can continue in your program. And I switched from chemistry to biology, and I was super excited. And I did very well. I thrived in doing that. I mean, I learned everything from mycology to bacteriology and loved it. Immunology, human physiology and anatomy, organismal physiology, plant physiology and pathology, biochemistry, protein chemistry, carbohydrate chemistry, organic chemistry, medicinal chemistry. I mean, the list went on and on. And even medical biophysics. So I even took a biophysics course where we looked at the biophysics of cells. I mean, it was a wonderful time for me. And taking all these areas of science, which I've always liked, and putting it into the subject of life, which, to be honest, since I was a kid, was always fascinated by. I mean, I've always enjoyed flowers. I've always been a gardener since I was 8 years old. So, of course, naturally, I would enjoy life in biology. So, it was a shock to me that I didn't go to that first. But I loved it. And then in the end, in my undergrad, I did an honors specialization in biology with a double minor in chemistry and physics. And I've enjoyed it. And, I don't regret it. I thought it was a great time. And then in my last year, though, when I was doing my thesis, which is just when you're doing your fourth year, it's a piece of scholarly activity, usually centered around some sort of research question. And my research question was looking at whether growth promoting bacteria that promote growth in plants could be used to help reduce metal stress, toxic metal stress like cadmium in plants. And I loved it. It was fun. I enjoyed my time. I combined chemistry with that of um, uh, biology, and it was a fantastic time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I realized I really like plants, right? I've always liked plants, as I said. And then I thought, this is so cool. I can even study plants. I not just kind of grow them in the garden and make cool designs in the garden, but I can work with them and understand how they work under a scientific context and make discoveries about this stuff. And because the nature of the work I was looking at a bacteria that associates with the root, I then became very interested in sort of these rhizospheric interactions between a microbe in the soil and the plant and how they sort of interconnect and how they talk to each other and how they can benefit each other. I became very fascinated by that. So I did my master's studying almost the exact same system, getting more in depth, understanding the mechanisms behind these symbiotic associations. And then I had an opportunity to work in a lab for my PhD that looks at climate change. And I've always had the question about how these rhizospheric interactions will change in the future, like as the climate warms, as we get more CO2 and plants have more photos, having more photosynthesis under some conditions, others not, but having more substrate, carbohydrate substrates available with higher CO2. What does that mean for the rhizosphere? And what kind of trade-offs occur? And all these different questions I had. And I was lucky to have this opportunity to work in a great lab in state-of-the-art facilities to look at climate change and how climate change impacts this. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time. Yes, it's been tough. Don't get me wrong. Yes, it's been frustrating. There's been a lot of times where it's frustrating. But I have enjoyed myself and learning all these things, going to conferences, and then above all else, I've been able to teach. So being a professor and instructor has also been highly enjoyable. Um, but yeah, and so that's how I kind of moved into sort of plants and microbes and that. And it's a very fascinating talk and even journey just to think about how one goes through these things in life. And I think the key points here are the influence of the teachers and the people who are around you. For me, my grandfather, kickstarting the love of nature, listening to nature. My teacher, right, my grade 7 teacher, who kind of honed me and recognized my interest and moved me into that space to help me. You should always, if you're an educator or a parent or grandparent, you have profound impacts on the development and even the career choices of where your pupils or children go. And I think that's a powerful message there, because both of those people shaped my career and my ideals and the things that I like. They shaped that, and I think it's important to always understand that. So I know I take that very seriously. As you know, I have a daughter and another baby on the way. I understand the importance of being excited about learning and teaching and passing those values on, and the importance that I have on their lives and their development. So with that, I think leave any comments down below about your journey into your careers. Well, who impact your life decisions? How did they help you and things? And thank you for listening. Please like and share and subscribe. And I look forward to our talk next time. So take care and stay well. Bye bye.